Herbert's 100 harem. Yes, I realize that what happened wasn't 100% a character, ma'am, but let's be honest, you wouldn't want it to be. Do remember the characters you want me to act as are criminals, thieves at the least, murderers mostly, and some with truly sadistic methodologies. True, Riddler wouldn't just give things away and Deathstroke would only fight for proper pay or some further goal. But this is about entertainment and style, not about actually having super criminals in the city, Herbert says into his communicator. The mayor had called to call him out on how inaccurate his portrayal of the Riddler and Deathstroke was. He was both impressed with how much of a nerd the woman had become and thoroughly unimpressed with how poorly she thought this through. I mean, if you want me to hold the city to ransom, I can, but I'll get my ass court-martialed so fast that the game will be called on account of military intervention. He continues as he laughs in amusement. That's not funny. There's a serious uptake in tourism and interest in our colony, and I don't want to lose it. We need to take advantage of a situation as it's occurring. She protests and Herbert sighs because she's right, but it's so much more complicated than that. I understand that. I appreciate that you're trying to balance the budget of an entire city whose main export seems to be thrilling chases and fights. In that light, it's only natural to go into vigilante-style street performances. Keeps people in the city, gets a lot of people employed, and there is an undeniable charm to what's happening. However, we have to do this sanely, otherwise there's also going to be an uptick in the mortuary business. And there's going to be a fair number of people losing a critical portion of their family income if this doesn't work. The mayor replies and Herbert rolls his eyes at that, but since this is audio only, it doesn't insult the bureaucrat. Which is why we need to find a balance, a way for not only the colony to prosper in its entirety, but to keep people safe while this happens. Herbert tells her, and she takes a few deep breaths. Now that you've calmed down, do you want to hear my idea? A little something so that both tourists and citizens can get involved with a minimization of deaths and injuries, and we can still get a ton of action and therefore entertainment out of it. I'm listening. I've been working on developing a leveling system with the men back on the Dauntless. Long story short, we have people register to be part of these, and for the levels we have a basic test of competency. First level would be basic reading and writing skills, and to be in good enough health that you're not about to fall down dead due to a stiff breeze. In those cases, it's just a big goofy play fight that you could get a toddler involved in without much issue. That's not going to bring in tourists, she protests. No, but it will serve as a level that the truly incompetent and not combat ready can be at, so they don't charge into the middle of a pitched fight, get themselves killed and have their grieving relatives sue the city for the death. Herbert replies and she stops. So you're implying that at every level there's a waiver so that people cannot sue the city for their voluntary involvement in what's essentially a gladiatorial fight, she asks. Exactly. Second level will require those involved to not only have some form of armor and appropriate weaponry, but demonstrate at least basic competence in their use. Couple that with a few logic puzzles and such, and we can keep people like that entertained all day while they run around the city and take occasional breaks in the venues. Add some classes that can be offered to help build the armor and gear and stores that sell the components or completed gear, and we have more revenue for the city. That would get the vast majority of the galaxy feeling like they can take part without being matronized at. This could open us up to a great deal of non-Apex races. It would indeed, however, third and fourth level would be more where the Apex are likely to be at. At third level, there is actual risk of injury and non-lethal, but still powerful weapons are regularly used. They'll need not only effective armor and weapons, but at least a professional understanding of combat and the ability to fight at such a level in the armor and with the weapons. Fourth level is basically third level with an additional stack of waivers because once we're there, we're out for blood. Not death, though. We won't straight up murder our enemies, but we're going to break bones and shed blood. And what about those that don't want to fight, but instead want to think? One of the major appeals of the character is that he's incredible, intelligent, and pragmatic. That can be worked into a separate system. In fact, if that one is handled by a specialized party on your part with some crossovers, our villains playing as boss battles or rewards or something of the sort, then that would work out wonderfully. Hire a Gravia for a logic puzzle, maybe a Go-Bee or a Cobe for something mechanical or medical, and you'll have a fairly high bar of competence. What's that trite human term that's racist? She asks, and Herbert snorts. Stereotypes come from somewhere, ma'am. Right. Look, I apologize for being pushy with things, but the city does need this. The budgetary meetings for this colony are living horror shows, and that we've been able to increase the city's lifeline by a trickle due to all this human silliness is a small miracle by itself. Many of our guests are extremely tough, self-reliant, and leave in a hurry. Fine traits for the efficiency, but hell on the economy when that's the main source of revenue. These hero and villain games have already attracted a steady stream of interest from the galaxy at large, and we've had a much more reasonable-looking budget meeting. I'd imagine it would have looked more reasonable if you hadn't had to rework the city. Herbert notes, and there's actually a smug-sounding laugh from the other side. Let me guess. The residents wanted to do that on their own, and part of the profits were the permits to do so. Exactly. She answers, and he chuckles. Good. Very good. Now, are there any other concerns, ma'am? There's a lot to do to get this all moving properly, and a fair amount is out of my hands. I'm pretty much just a message runner at this point. Unless you want attack of the teenage Deathstroke to happen again, he asks. Perhaps not. But I would like a rough timetable if you have one. Within the week. There are a lot of men on the Dauntless which think the idea of using this place as a recruiting point will be both effective and hilarious, and more than a few are eager to play along. We've already got our Bane analog opened up in a man who's rapidly growing to Canador scale and is of the same nationality and culture as the actual villain in the comic books. He's even making his own custom Lucador mask. And other villains? There's going to be shifts, to be honest. We don't want anyone losing themselves in character and go from portraying a supervillain to actually being a supervillain. Herbert remarks, and there's a pause on the other side. Yes, that would be a problem, wouldn't it? How prone are humans to such things? It depends entirely on the pressures the individual in question has been through. Certain people are extremely prone, others are not prone in the slightest. But the risk is still significant enough that we're going to be minimizing it with some simple but practical safety measures. Herbert replies. One of which is significant time outside of costume, which is why we're going to need a public announcement or a city bylaw about not harassing them when they're just looking to unwind. I've been in this game long enough to know when I'm being sweetened up for something. You're doing it in a weird way, but you're still doing it. What do you want? Approval to set up 2 separate locations for the Undaunted, one on the ground, the other as an airship of our own. This will allow us to recruit and accommodate both our needs and that of the colony and... Yes. She cuts off his pitch and leaves him hanging. He gives a little huff of amusement. Thank you, ma'am. Were you expecting me to argue? She asks in an amused tone. I've dealt with a lot of the really stubborn and hard to persuade types, let's call them. You're allowed to say stupid. I'm trying to be diplomatic. Herbert responds and she snorts. What's so funny? Just the fact that I have a child around your age so I can tell when a teenager is forcing their voice lower to sound more mature, she remarks. Do you think he'd make a good Robin? Sight unseen without knowing anything beyond gender. I have no goddamn idea. Send him to my fellow Undaunted for an evaluation and we'll see. Send him for training and we'll put him on the level of Robin. Herbert replies and she chuckles. All right, I'll wait until one of your men contacts me specifically, and I now have a call waiting. My employers tend to do such things. If it's Sir Philip, please tell him hello from me, Herbert says. All right, hang on a moment, she says, and Herbert finishes up with the weapon maintenance he'd been doing to keep his hands busy during the call. The laser rifle worked better when all the lenses were utterly pristine. You could get just a hair's breadth more power out of the same amount of energy. A few extra degrees Kelvin may not sound like much, but if it's the difference between a melting point and not, then it can really get through some armor. Yes, the power could be ramped up, but the difference between potentially damaging the weapon or not also has to be considered. The call opens back up again. So, Sir Philip? Yes? He's basically if Alfred was Batman for Bruce's sake, isn't he? She asks, and Herbert bursts out into cackles. I've never heard it put quite that way before, but I suppose. The man is a legend that's still alive. Much of the books and films based off his life had to be toned down to keep them realistic. In cruel space? Yes. He's been out of cruel space as long as I have. His published biography is in both the fiction and non-fiction categories in bookstores. Hell of a read. Terrifying, too, to know just how close some lunatics came to wiping out hundreds of thousands of people, Herbert remarks. I've slowly been peeling details out of him, and it's all lining up so far. Do you think he could be stationed here? The mayor asks. He's not only old, but has no desire for rejuvenation treatments and is heading back to Earth before the year ends. He has an estate there, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and fully believes that he's given enough over his long life of hard service to Queen and country. This last one is for humanity, though, so he was willing to come out or retirement for one last ride. Herbert repeats what Sir Philip has told him many times. He's not bringing up the active betting pool or his own wager on it that the man has been possibly using a slow-acting rejuvenation to grow younger internally first, and then head back to Earth to get his family and then take them out to a planet he's going to simply conquer and call Newest England. Or the fact that Sir Philip had more or less instantly found the pool and placed a sizable bet on himself being honest. That had led to a second betting pool on whether or not he was fucking with them, being honest, or both simultaneously. The leading bet was both, and Herbert decidedly backed out before he made his direct superior and teacher upset with him. It's fairly sad to know that someone like that is content to just fade away. He's given so much that death has nothing to scare him with anymore. To him, it just looks like peace, and after the life he's lived, peace sounds wonderful, Herbert remarks. Poor man, the mayor remarks. Poor nothing. He's a great man who's forged a legacy that will last far beyond him. His life has been full and long, and there is nothing to pity about it. Herbert replies, sure, he's not even hit a century, but he's filled that time with more than most will do in 1,000 years. Can we get on a less depressing topic, please? She asks, and cannot see the enormous smile on Herbert's face. Certainly. I believe I mentioned mortuaries earlier, didn't I? He asks. Oh my goodness, you are a little cretin. That's the restorative coma that did that. I'm going to end up slightly taller than average for my species. Herbert says impishly. I'm sure it did nothing for your sense of humor. Some things are just beyond saving. Fair enough. Now, are there any more specific concerns about the Undaunted approaching, or will they be contacting my office for permits on building their recruiting centers? She asks. Yes, Herbert answers. Then no, she says, and hangs up. I think I got to her. He notes with a grin.